good evening, and loving regards to all of you from Bangalore, India. My name is Devi Mohan, for those of you who may not know me so far. And this is a relaxed video sharing of certain profound inner experiences, challenges, tests on the path, but even more than that, immense blessings. So I hope that my story will somewhere touch a deep chord in you and inspire you to walk the path, your path. If it happens to be the path of pathlessness that we share, more than welcome. If it's some other path, it's also okay. But as long as we are sincere and truthful and 100% committed to the ultimate goal, we will reach it. And all the help will come our way. This is my experience. Even the most impossible things can become possible if we have that dedication, commitment, and complete faith and surrender. So this is easy to say, but difficult to do once our physical reality brings forth challenges. And both Mohanji and I had plenty of those challenges on the path. So I would like to first start with a certain conclusion, which I reached only today, that this is the first time since I met Mohanji in 2007, and since he started the mission by leaving our office work and all that in 2012, since then we have not actually lived together for a longer period of time. So basically it just kind of happened that ever since Mohanji started traveling, I have gotten used to his presence without presence. I've gotten used to not depending on him being physically around. And it was actually an empowerment. I never felt weak in my life without him being physically present, because before he left and started the journeys across the globe conducting programs, he has empowered me. He has ensured that I have continuously this inner connection, if I choose to have it, of course, which I do, and never feel lonely, alone, empty. I've never felt that. And being physically present around Mohanji is not always so easy. It's not comfortable because his energy is so high and his activity levels are unimaginable. Now during the Corona lockdown, I've been with Mohanji for the first time since 2012 for 2 months continuously. This never happens. So I often joke with my friends, with the blessing of Corona, we are now, Mohanji, Mila and I are together for 2 months. So we have to look at everything from the bright side. But basically, it's been a special time. And a lot has happened during these 2 months. So I've never shared this much in public before, and now suddenly we have videos, podcasts, I'm writing the autobiography, it's like all speeding up. And there's so many new initiatives coming up, aside from so many other platforms that we have within the overall global Mohanji platform, on top of ACT Foundation, Maitri, Kriya, different programs, different countries. I've been actively involved with so many different groups until now. Now we have Early Birds Club, and today Mila has also been involved with doing her video recordings and kind of taking up the role of a leader for this week of the Early Birds Club kids. So it's very sweet. And Mohanji finds solutions for all of us, provided we are willing to rise above the tamasic pull, the lethargy. There's that invisible part of us that pulls us down all the time, that tells us, I don't feel like it today, today I feel a bit lazy, I'm just going to watch movies and doze off, or just kind of withdraw a little bit. So this withdrawing a little bit kind of leads eventually towards the depressive state in one way or the another, the feeling of separation. In order for us to enter the field of living unity consciousness, we can call this God or we can call this any other way, but it's vibrant, living, just like internet connects us. This field of consciousness is much more alive and much more real than any internet. So we call it the internet. So if you join the internet and you start connecting with that unity consciousness through love, through being available to help others, to reach out to others, then you start feeling this immense joy and fulfillment, and you realize just how much you can do. So today my contribution is simply by sharing from the heart. I've not written down any speech. I prefer to simply talk from the heart because I don't have any second agenda, right? I don't have an agenda of promoting Mohanji, of making myself look good in the eyes of others or anything like that. It's simply the fact of stating the truth of my life experience. And my life is like a different life since I met Mohanji. So I'll now, in this intro session, because we will be having a couple of other sessions about my life with Mohanji, in this intro session, I will kind of look back into the time before I met Mohanji, and just to give you the overall idea of the driving forces that brought us together. So in the same year when Mohanji had the biggest turmoil and tragedy of his life, at that time he went through the experience of losing his daughter Amu, who got run over by a truck. He eventually divorced his wife. He lost his job, he lost some possessions, got stolen by a thief, and so forth. So he has gone through this complete removal, complete removal of everything that he was possibly attached to. And that's certainly not something one would wish to anyone, definitely not. And very often we get this question, what did I do to deserve this? How come there is a God when I am being punished, through this pain? But we don't see the big picture. In that moment, first of all, we don't see the karmic story behind our experiences. And we don't see the benefits and meaning within our pain. Because the pain wakes us up from the slumber. The pain makes us face the truth. And only if you have the courage to really look deep into that pain, you will grow from that experience, and your life will not be the same. So the same year when Mohanji lost his daughter, I chose with my free will to go literally into a war zone. It was in Kosovo, where I was considered the enemy. And this was the experience in which every day for 1 year, my life was in danger. And potentially anything from the bad scenario of rape, insult, injury to actual losing of my life, everything was possible, very much so. So I did have a near-death experience that year, and some possible kidnapping experiences, and a lot more. But this was the year where I actually experientially saw that there is this higher force that takes care of me. And this higher force talks to me through certain immeasurable inner intuitions and feelings that usually come in the very last moment. So basically, I felt many times that some end to my life will come, or that something horrible will happen. And then in that last moment, the help comes. So I started actually feeling this invisible force, this divine force actually taking care of me. And this is something that, you know, we can hear from other people, we can read in the books, but until we taste that loving force behind us, until we taste it, we don't actually believe it, you know. I really, at least this was the case with me, I didn't really believe this was real until I put myself into a situation where I really could have had a bad experience or lose my life. So there were certain moments where, for example, I can give one experience that year. I wanted to go, I was working for United Nations as the language assistant, and I was not given any actual protection, you know. I was simply out there, and if anything happens, it happens. I can call a security, I have a Motorola, but that's about it. So within that scenario, there was a lot of serious potential for me being in trouble, actually getting into a situation where I lose my life, or I get kidnapped and then repeatedly raped, or anything horrible like that. So all of this was happening, especially to young ladies, you know, so it was a very high possibility. So in this, one day I was walking down the street, and a man was approaching me, a very angry man who started telling me something in his Albanian language. And his body had the body language of violence. He was like pouncing on me. He was about to literally attack me. And in that moment, there was no time to think. I was not having any special martial arts moves in my pocket or any weapon to defend myself. And even if I screamed, I'm not sure that anybody around would help me. I didn't have anybody from international community walking behind me or around me. Right, so in that moment, I just became blank. I just became blank, and then an insight came, that very second, a very strong insight that I should focus 100% on his heart, and I should imagine a golden ball in my chest and a golden ball in his chest. And from my golden ball, I should send all my love, like all I've got, into his heart. And this all took literally 3, 4, 5 seconds, not more. But I've done that in that moment, and before my very eyes, this man transformed. You know, he started approaching me with that angry face and body language of attacking, and then as if he got into certain wonderment, he looked somewhere else, he was feeling something, and then just he passed me by like a wind. So this was one of those experiences. There were quite many more. I will share those in my autobiography, but I've tasted that connection with the field of consciousness, with the divine. And since that year onward, my life changed. I've fulfilled my dreams of higher education, and after graduating from the Notre Dame University in master's degree in peace studies, I left my career, and I felt a strong pull, a spiritual pull, which was a result of another deeper experience. I've shared that in my podcasts in Babaji series. So if you're interested, you can find me on podcast. Basically, I've come to Dubai, and I was very eager to start digging deeper spiritually. And I didn't know where to start. I didn't have full clarity of what I was looking for. But after some time, this clarity started coming to me. And the peak of that clarity happened in 2006 when I went to India, and for the first time I went to the abode of Sathya Sai Baba. I was led there by a friend of mine, holistic doctor from Croatia. And you know, that was the first time when I actually sat down and asked myself with 100% sincerity, why am I here? Who am I really? Why am I here? What is it that I really want? What do I want out of life? You know, we think that we ask ourselves these questions, but we don't really dig deep. So the time that I had in the silence, being in the aura and presence of Baba, I've started asking these questions because, you know, at that time I had a super fancy job with high salary. I was going scuba diving, salsa dancing, I was learning taekwondo, then I started with yoga, then I went for yoga teacher training, many workshops, learning new techniques, meeting new friends. I was very extroverted and very active in my Dubai life. Shopping, you know, fulfilling any need or desire and dream, and it was just like going for it fully. But deep inside, there was an emptiness. There was a hole I was trying to fill. So sometimes in spiritual jargon, we call this the compensation spasm. You're almost like in a certain spasm. You're grabbed by this need to compensate. And you don't really see what you're doing. You know, this is the scenario that most people have. So they go out to cinema, they go out for parties, they meet friends, they, you know, continuously try to do something to fulfill this emptiness. But there comes a point when we ask ourselves these key questions. So in the presence of Baba, I've asked this question to myself. And one evening, Dr. Maya, my friend, and I, we were going to a room at that same abode, is the summer camp, Vrindavan, summer camp of Sathya Sai Baba. So we shared the room, and we went to sleep by playing the Gayatri mantra. So we just continuously played Gayatri mantra in Sai Baba's voice. It's very beautiful. And playing the mantra, we were kind of dozing off, falling asleep. And at some point, Baba entered the room in his light body, and the whole room lit up. And Dr. Maya shared with me later on that she simply, with her astral body, she just jumped into that ocean of light. But in my case, I was feeling this abnormally high energy, but at the same time, I was dreaming. And it was not a normal dream. I was literally taken into a house of one man who was married, but he was attracted towards me. He was in love with me. And I found him interesting. He was a spiritual man. But I was hesitant to enter into a relationship because he's married. And in that astral experience, it was not a dream. It was very real. I saw his wife cooking. I saw the children. I saw him saying that he would prefer to sleep in his separate room and not with the wife, because he wanted to dedicate himself to his spiritual practice. But actually he felt he could not sleep with her because he was continuously fantasizing about me. And you know, it's very tough to see this. I was not aware of what was happening in his mind. I was not aware what my occasional smile had, or the permission for us to hold hand and walk in Dubai and do the breathing techniques together. You know, I was not aware of that effect. I was not aware that I'm spoiling a family life, you know, that I'm ruining somebody's family. And then I came out of this experience, and I saw this Dr. Maya overwhelmed with joy, how she had this blissful, you know, ultimate experience with Baba. And I just stood there and I realized I was not ready for it, and I was not pure enough for it. So it was tough, you know, to accept this. And it was like a big slap in my face. And it was something that provoked me to think more about my past. I had a couple of relationships in the past where this pattern was repeated, that either the man was married, or I found this partner after some time to be a bit boring because he was not spiritually up to the mark, or I felt more mature and I felt bored with the relationship, and then I would leave that relationship. And in the end, I started to wonder whether I will ever be able to even have a fulfilling, deep relationship. So I started admitting to myself that this is an emptiness that bothers me. My inability to relate to a partner at a very deep level and to have a fulfilling relationship. So there was a bit of counseling from Dr. Maya, and she told me, well, have you asked yourself what is it that you would expect out of a man? What kind of man would you want? Obviously, you see now what doesn't work, what kind of spoils it all for you. But what do you really want out of a man? And then for a couple of days, I was digging deep about this. And then I came to a very strange conclusion that if I'm ever to marry, my husband would need to be basically a master. Because if he was a CEO of a company or some rich man, again, boring. If he was a famous actor or somebody, but not spiritual, boring. And none of all these worldly things were interesting for me. But if it was somebody who is above me and stronger than me, but who at the same time doesn't suffocate me with impositions, who holds me on the palm and lets me grow alongside with him, and we serve the world together. This is the partner that would fulfill me. So it was a kind of a unity for a higher purpose, and a partner who would actually rule me through love, you could say. So, I come from the Balkan region where, man is supposed to be the man. There is this, you could say, stereotype, but most women are attracted to strong men. It's very rarely do you see that a woman is the boss in the house. But at the same time, you don't want to be doormat. You don't want to be treated with disrespect. So, but at my end, this was taken to a whole new level because of the deep spiritual experiences that I had and my actual longing to dedicate my life to a higher cause. Because when I had my near-death experience, I was sent back to my body with a message about my life's mission. And I did not take my life for granted anymore. I understood that I'm here for a purpose. Otherwise, I would have been gone then. So since I came back, I better use this time for a higher purpose. And I was told that my mission is to serve the unity. And it's a very broad statement. So it took quite a lot of time of deep introspection to start beginning to understand what this unity means. So back to Sathya Sai Baba. This Dr. Maya said, okay, so now that you understood what you want, now all you need to do is to write it down, because when you write down, you have even further, you feel like you pinned it even more. So just a couple of bullet points of what you want your partner to look like, and then you fold it nicely. You place it somewhere on the stage under the flowers, and but rest assured that Baba gets it. That's why so many people write those letters. It's for their own mind to understand that he has received it. He would have received it even telepathically, but we don't believe that. So when we write something and place it there, then we feel, okay, I've given it to him. So that's what I did. I wrote the bullet points. So number one was my partner. If I'm ever to marry, my partner should be highly spiritually evolved, but unassuming. He should not be a show-off. Number two, he should not be clumsy either, a bit sporty, a leader, a brave, courageous man. And thirdly, most important point, we serve the world together. We come together for the higher purpose. So I wrote this down, And I surrendered it there and I left it. And Dr. Maya advised, never think, when will it happen? Why isn't it happening as yet? You know, then it's like you place the seed and then you dig it out to see, is it growing? The moment you dig it out, you spoil it. So the seed needs to be left in the ground, and when it's the right time, it will come out and sprout. So the same thing is with this. But know that when you're in the aura of a master, actual manifestation happens millions times faster than otherwise. You know, nothing is too high of a task for a true master, especially somebody of the stature of Sai Baba. So I believed this and I left it there. And to be honest, I kind of forgot about it. I forgot about it. I only remember that during that same trip I visited our beloved Devi Amma, and I clarified certain doubts with her, because I had one distant relationship for like 5-6 years, which was draining me quite a lot. And I had certain doubts. And with the help of Devi Amma, I cleared those doubts. And she lovingly said at the end, masters have somebody special for you. So she confirmed, you know, as if she knew what I was asking for, and this thought about a master as a husband was even kind of strengthened with the blessing of Devi Amma. And she continues to be with us as our angel on the path, a beautiful, amazing soul that really is such a blessing on this path. So we are still in touch with Devi Amma, and we have that blessing of her physical presence in our lives. So after this, I went back to Dubai, and I've started immersing myself into yoga. I became a yoga instructor, and there were many events, there were many activities, my job. You know, I was continuously in Rajas, and I was active, active, active. There was no time to think. So I even forgot about what I asked for. I became fully dedicated. And then one day, I suddenly got this thought, I would love to do social service. You know, it was social service, what we call in India, seva, you know, that suddenly became my thirst. Because I was at that time part of the Art of Living Foundation, and I was really volunteering a lot of my time, and that also was seva, but it was not fulfilling enough for me, because I really longed for actual hands-on charity. So I got a job in one Australian company, and there one of the colleagues in the office was a very sweet Indian gentleman with whom I spoke about this during the lunch break, and he told me, well, I know somebody, his name is Mohan, and Mohan has a charity that I sometimes volunteer for, and I can tell you it's brilliant. You know, there's only a couple of us, it's not a big group, but we are doing a lot. We are doing a lot. And I said, that's it, you know, that's what I want, like really hands-on charity. So I asked him, so can you introduce me to him? And he said, of course. Actually, that day before that, we started the mega yoga course. It was a historic event in Dubai. For the first time ever, there were 350 people coming for yoga. So this was not common in Dubai at that time. It was a very historic thing. And that was January 2007. So I was one of the 5-6 yoga teachers who were on the stage or among the people correcting their asanas. And it was going on really beautifully. And this colleague of mine, he said, well, actually this Mohan, you know, he's there among these people. So when we have the time, I'll introduce you. In the meantime, I asked to see the website, you know, just to kind of have the idea of what they do. So he gave me the amukare.org website. And at that time, this website had a musical melody attached to it. So, you know, when you click on the website, the music plays. And you won't believe it, this was the same tune that I chose for my phone. Just maybe a month before that, I discovered you can download some tunes, not the automatic one you get with the phone, but any other tune. And I somehow found out about this Japanese composer Kitaro, who had more than like 100 songs. and he's not really known or famous, but one of the songs kind of stuck with me, and it's called Lady of Dreams, I believe. And I downloaded that on my phone. So now I visited this website and I hear my phone ringing. So I look at my phone, but nobody's calling me. So I'm confused, like my phone is ringing, nobody's calling. And it took me a while to understand that the music is actually coming from the website. And that just, blew me off. This was a synchronicity that I've just found really a bit too much, So it intrigued me, like this person chose the same music as me. So this was like one synchronicity, a small sign. And then there were other things happening. At this yoga training, the very first day, I was distributing small, thin pens. So there were black pens. They were courtesy of the Shangri-La Hotel, the venue. And I was distributing this to 350 people, one of the activities of the volunteers. And then when I needed the pen to note something down, I didn't have one. And I kind of looked up and I said, does anybody have a pen to lend me? I just need to write something down. And there was this sweet Indian gentleman in just ordinary cotton clothes, kind of semi-long hair, just like up to the cheek with a bit of curls and mustache. And he looked at me and he just handed over a pen, which was the same like the ones that I was handing over to all the other people, but it was white. So I kind of looked, first of all, it's the same pen but white, and I've not seen any white ones, there were only black ones. And at the same time, there was just, it was a strange occurrence, it was something that just touched me. But I didn't ask him anything about it, I just smiled and thanked him. So, but I noticed him. Then the same gentleman I noticed during correction of the asanas a couple of times when I was roaming through the audience. We had short meditations in the midst of yoga asanas. And whenever a time for this short meditation came, I felt the pull to kind of squat or sit somewhere near the same gentleman. There was some energy about him. And I was very shy about it. I didn't communicate with him in any way. I simply would kind of use the opportunity to feel that energy again. So I already spotted him energetically, but I didn't know who he was. And then that evening, my colleague, he said, okay, let me introduce you to Mohan. And he brought me forward, and it was the same guy. So I just extended my hand to shake his hand, and he looked at me and he said, Mohan, pleased to meet you. And when he looked into my eyes, there was something that I find difficult to describe, but it happened. Like, it felt like a scanner that went in and out, there was a deeper process happening than just him looking at me. There was some deeper connection. And at the same time, I felt, when you look at somebody's eyes and you instantly feel familiarity and you feel certain joy without a reason. So I entered his number in my phone because everybody was already leaving. There was not much time to talk. So I entered his number and I put Mohan dash, and then I had to put something, an explanation. Otherwise, I meet many people, especially a lot from Indian community, and many of them have similar names. So I have to explain which Mohan. Without much thinking, I put Srodna Dusha. In my language, this means a soulmate, or more of a familiar soul. Not in a romantic sense, but like a soulmate in somebody you know from before at a soul level. So I put Mohan Srodna Dusha, and I ended with that. And then some time passed, and I did not call him. And another well-being show happened in Dubai, and I was again busy with yoga, promotions and all that. And this Mohan, the familiar soul, was passing by. And then when I saw him, I was so happy. And I waved at him, and he came by, and he invited me for tea. And very casually, we went to a coffee bar nearby, and we had a tea together. And at that time, I spoke with him about some deeper experiences. And I was literally blown away by his sharing of his experiences with Matar Babaji. Because one of my highest experience was the conscious astral travel in which I met Babaji. And I almost had the ultimate experience of dissolution, but I was not ready, and I was sent back to my body. And since then I had this intense thirst to understand who that was, what had happened, and I wanted to get back into that space. So when he shared that with me, there was an immense energy that was created and depth of connection. So I definitely wanted to meet him again. There was absolutely no memory of what I asked from Sathya Sai Baba. There was no romantic feeling. I was not in that energy at all. I was simply eager to share and find out more. So this went on for a while, and I was a guest at his podcast, Mohan's World. He had a beautiful podcast during which I shared my near-death experience. And then this near-death experience was published exactly on Valentine's Day in February 2007. So he informed me, I was in the office, and he informed me, hi, have you seen the podcast? It was published today. And I didn't even realize it was Valentine's. I was busy with my work and everything. And then the topic of the podcast was only love is real, So I was really, really eager to understand, is this like a hidden message? Is this something that he's telling me? But that's when this whole, you could say, romantic part started, and a deep connection at that level. I was not getting it still. So the most interesting part was this really funny telepathic communion that happened between Mohanji and Sai Baba, Sathya Sai Baba. So I was sleeping, and one morning I woke up, and the moment I opened my eyes and woke up and opened my eyes, that very second my phone rang. So I'm looking, who's calling? Mohan, the soulmate. So, oh. Then I answered the phone, and he said, hi, I just had a very interesting experience. I was in the bathroom and shaving and getting ready for work, and I got this interesting telepathic message from Sathya Sai Baba, and he showed me your face for a moment through the third eye, and he said, poor girl, she's so confused. She didn't know. And so I thought I'll share that with you. I was like, okay, thank you. I was thinking, I was really even more confused. I didn't understand, what does this mean? Totally not getting it. Then after another couple of days, the same scenario. I wake up in the morning, he calls me, another message has come, and again he was shaving in the bathroom or whatever he was doing in the bathroom, and the telepathic message came. So you can imagine yourself waking up in the morning and you're still a bit drowsy, and this kind of thing arrives at you, and information about somebody receiving telepathic about yourself. So first of all, I had the idea that to receive telepathic message, you would need to sit in meditation and focus. And this man is like receiving them, in the toilet. So that was like completely new concept for me. And secondly, this time the message was much more specific. The message was, I had no choice. I had to give her you. He's talking to Mohanji. I had no choice. I had to give her you. There was nobody else left, meaning there was nobody else left who fulfilled all the conditions. And Mohanji said, I'm totally not understanding this message, but again, I saw your face, so it's something about you. Maybe you would understand. And I had like the little bulb, appearing in my head, and I was like, I understand. But as you can imagine, I was very shy to actually tell him, I ordered you through saibaba.com, through amazon.com. Like when you order a book, I ordered you from Baba, so you have arrived, I didn't know how I'm going to tell him this. And then I was having many scenarios in my head. Like I asked him if we can meet that evening and meet for a coffee. And there's something I would like to talk to him about. But I didn't know how to tell him. And then finally I decided, okay, I'm just going to tell him the truth. This is what had happened 9 months ago. And now we meet. So it was very funny. I remember we were walking by the sea near Jumeirah Beach Hotel. And after I told him of this, he kind of looked and smiled and he said, oh, so it looks like we are like supposed to be together. And I said, oh, looks like it. And then we were we were laughing about it. And so he's like, well, he told me, I have had a very painful experience of marriage, and I'm very happy with my spiritual practice, and I was not really planning on getting married or anything of that sort. I have decided to avoid any entanglements. I do enjoy your company though, but this is what I've felt so far. And I told him, well, I've also not been too eager to enter into entanglements of any sort. I'm enjoying my yoga teaching, yoga practice, meditation, and but this is what I did ask from Sai Baba. So if it's meant to be, it will happen. So then both of us were kind of, we had to admit that we enjoyed our time together, and we enjoyed talking to each other, and we kind of took it easy, but eventually it did start to deepen our relationship. And then came a point where I felt there was something more that I needed to share. So one evening I was having a bit of inner tormenting moments where I felt like, in India you usually have arranged marriages. Usually a man and woman come together with either no prior experience in relationships or very less. But in Europe, it's the contrary. Like, unless usually by the end of the high school days, you are supposed to start dating and you have relationships. And it's most normal to have a couple of relationships before your marriage. This is what's normal in our society. So this was normal for me as well. So I had this thought, what if he thinks that I had one or none relationship before? Because that's not really true. So I should tell him, he should not think that I'm some kind of a virgin or that I'm this ideal woman. So I felt like this is something I should tell him because it was bothering me. So I have decided, okay, I'm gonna go and tell him this. I should not allow my thoughts to suffocate me. So I came to his apartment that evening, and we started talking, and I said, there's something I need to tell you. And then I started sharing this, and he kind of interrupted me halfway through, and he said, oh, I understand what you want to tell me. Don't worry about it. Last night your soul came to me and told me all these things about your previous boyfriends and all that. And I told her, look, I'm not interested in this. This is your past, I'm only looking at the present, and from now on, the future will be building from the present moment. So this is all fine with me. And then I was kind of breathless for a moment because I was like, okay, I didn't know this was possible, that my soul goes to him behind my back, and shares my past with him. So this was all just the beginning of my wonderment. And as of the next episode, I'll be sharing what all were the things that were just beyond anybody's imagination happening as we started to share time more and more, and as we started to live together. So that will continue as of the next episode. We now have Mohanji Acharya Barbara starting in a couple of minutes from the main official Mohanji page. So I've decided to end a bit earlier, simply to allow the time for her to share her journey with you. And I believe we'll continue in the next episode. So thank you for joining me, and lots of love.